Not long ago, there was an oil spill in Southern California. Over 100,000 gallons of oil freely flowing into the Pacific Ocean and then spoiling a whole bunch of beach, actually not that far from where we're filming. And government officials say that the spill originated from a broken pipeline off the coast of Huntington Beach that runs from the Port of Long Beach to a production and processing platform called Ellie, located in the Beta Field. Because it's weak, it doesn't stand up for itself. An accumulation of oil 9 miles from the California coast that's been in operation for more than 4 decades at this point. Initially, they estimated it was 126,000 gallons of crude oil. Now it's closer to the 150,000 mark. We'll find out 30 years later after a whistleblower that it was 1 billion gallons. But for now, that's what they're actually telling us. And there's a lot of concerns, not just that the beaches are destroyed, but all of the wildlife that will be affected by this. Fish and wildlife officials have been focusing on rescuing oiled birds. There's actually in Huntington Beach a critical habitat for migratory species. Apparently it has affected less animals than it was initially expected. That's again what they're saying. But anyway, I especially wanted to talk about this with you, Brett, because although I am now discovering that you do not associate closely with Huntington Beach, you are an LA beach person. And so what do you make of this?
In my scientific opinion, oil spills are not good. And the reason for that is their destructive nature. And when they touch wildlife, that wildlife has trouble dealing. You know how like you'll be like, I can't deal. That is nothing compared to what it's like when oil coats an egret.
I was gonna say egret, actually. Okay, thank you, doctor. That's true. I still think I have it worse when I can't deal. Like like when I can't. Can they even?
Right.
Can they even?
But like this, there are tons of upsides of fossil fuels when they're not spilling into the ocean. There's pollution. There's air pollution because this is still pollution. There's all kinds of other pollution. Because it's such a versatile kind of fuel. They cause earthquakes in Oklahoma, which doesn't really, typically work as a major hotbed of tectonic activity. But when you frack the soil, you then create earthquakes in places that shouldn't have them. And that is an accomplishment, we would call it. That is excellent or extraordinary because it's outside the ordinary. So this is one of the many things that I always like to remind people about fossil fuels. It's that it's not just the leakage into oceans even, that also leaks into rivers and pollutes when the pipelines, even when they're underground, they also contaminate water sources. And it's not just fossil fuels that do that. There's all kinds of other byproducts of industry that have contaminated. Let's talk about California, that have contaminated most of California's water sources. If it's just the general processing of these fuels that has leached into the soil, and when you're purchasing a new home, they'll tell you about it. And then also in the under the great the reason that California is always talking about how thick the snowpack is, it's because our major water table under the San Joaquin Valley has been rendered unusable due to underground pollution from jet companies and other testing facilities. So it really is a full wild dynamic gamut of pollutive activities that we always forget about when there is a oil spill polluting Huntington Beach, which is itself full of the dregs and sludge of mega California.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you for taking time out of your academic work. You're totally right. I would summarize it as oil spill, ruins environment, kills things faster than intended. That's basically what it is. It was always going to do that, but we have a social contract where you're supposed to burn it in a car first, and then it ruins the environment and kills people. This was too fast. I want you to slow down the killing with the oil. But anyway. Also, really fast, I want to make sure that people know, even if we can't go into full detail, that the company that operates this had already been fined by regulators a ton for violations of workplace safety provisions. There was 125 non-compliance violations by federal inspectors, including one of the organizations responsible for inspecting offshore oil platforms. 72 so-called component and facility shut-in non-compliance incidents, 53 additional non-compliance warnings for violations deemed not severe or threatening, but basically a lot of concerns. And so when the company says there was no indication that there was a leak or that there was gonna be a leak, I don't know, are you competent? Like, should we be surprised by that? Is that the excuse that it sounds like, or is it just the latest in a long-standing series of issues with this company? Anyway, as of right now, the beaches are still messed up. We will see how bad it is. I was joking earlier, I've never seen one of these environmental disasters end with, hey, it turned out it really wasn't as bad as we thought. It was actually less oil. It was less. That's never the way that this goes. They wait until people aren't paying attention anymore and the beach isn't literally covered in oil anymore to reveal that, sure, no, it actually spread way worse. It killed a pod of whales and all of that. So we'll see. Okay,
but
with
the
that,
upside, you get these great songs by Jack Johnson like Tar Balls, which is about how when you live in Santa Barbara, tar balls just wash up on the street because that facility, the drilling that happens in the channel, gave rise to not only that song, but also the site of the only continental bombing during World War II by the Japanese in Galita.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate the optimism. You're a barrels half full kind of guy, I think, is how I'd put that.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.